Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen in India, and good afternoon, rest of the world. It's a pleasure today to discuss with Arthur Phillip, the Executive Vice President, Global Head of Marketing and Sales Transformation at HCL. Interesting journey that he has had is worked in multiple multinational corporations based in US, and as he says, he likes the Indian food, and he finds exciting to work for an Indian corporation, helping them transformation of the businesses in the changing era. In today's conversation, what we're discussing is the pandemic that impacted us just about a year back, impacted business in a different way, what needs to be done and what could be done, how is a new normal emerging, etc., putting it together, and understand from Arthur on his passion in terms of motivating people, into the motivating bridging cultures, the new heights, and expand ecosystem. If these are the three areas, a new expanded ecosystem, how did it play to it? How did he play to it? And how the situation going to play out as we go forward? Arthur, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, VSG. I'm thrilled to be here and always thrilled to be in an audience of NASSCOM colleagues and IT professionals around the world.
Fantastic. Very interesting. HCL is one of those corporations would add a very, I would use the wrong word, but pleasantly wrong word, successful run in the last 12 months. There were panic in the initial 1 quarter, and subsequently you all did that magic formula to rally behind what is going on. Is there a way you could share with us when you were in the situation 1 year back, how did you look at it? And when you look back after 12 months, hey, after all, we're not supposed to be here. We are exceeded what we are supposed to have expected. Can you help us go through the journey, Arthur?
Yeah, it's been fascinating. First of all, if I go back literally a year ago and maybe 2 weeks, we were all in Mumbai at the NASSCOM forum. And, it was great to see so many colleagues and competitors and young students coming into the business and of course, industry veterans alike. And of course, to see Debjani and the whole team. And then we all kind of heard about the situation that was happening around the world. By this time, we had already formed internally our executive crisis management team. So even back in the very beginning of January of 2020, we were starting to track this and manage the pandemic before it was declared a pandemic. So the preparation, that standpoint, I think we were well organized and really running like a military operation. And many across the industry did similar. I think that the journey evolved pretty quickly. Literally a year ago, people were figuring out in all corners of the world how to get home, what that meant to work from home, what was going to happen to friends and family and loved ones. None of us knew the extent of what the virus was. And I think there was a natural human fear. What is this some mysterious cloud that's going to, really harm people's lives? And we certainly learned a lot in the past year. I think for us, we had all of the right pieces have been coming to place over the last number of years. Clearly we have been hard at work developing all of our digital and technical capabilities, both organically and inorganically. But to me, what stood out and is the hallmark of our company is the people ingredient. And many people will say that, but I think HCL has taken on a different kind of spiritual function for people throughout the world. And it is a company where, our 44 years heritage growing up in India, but also some of the, East meets West values have really come together and formed a global blanket for us. I will tell you that safety and well-being of our employees and their families, of course, that's been the top priority and will remain so. I think the human side, the empathy and compassion that came about during this period of time and the flexibility, recognizing that people were going to work from home, kids were going to be running throughout the house, noises would happen at different times of day. We all kind of learned to be human and drop some of that corporate, shield that we all wear when we go into the office building. And that's really paid off for us.
Very interesting you say that. As you rightly said, this has been the new learnings what we have acquired the period of 12 months time. There are some people said, hey, this is to stay. Some people say this is not to stay. For example, if I had to quote the chief executive of Goldman Sachs, he said the entire business model is built on apprenticeship model. He said, look, this is a good noise being made of work from home, but work to office is going to be more reality. In your opinion, Arthur, we had obviously some good learnings. You talked about empathy, you talked about remote infrastructure, you talked about working from home, etc. In your opinion, what will be the 3-4 things that you acquired as a new capabilities, which we should not let go, whether it's in working from office or working from home, from a people perspective, environment perspective, office perspective, we should carry forward as a long-term assets that will take us forward, which was not foreseeably visible to us 1 year back. What would be those assets?
Yeah. So there are a number of things. And first of all, I know that there are some CEOs that are in the camp of saying this is the new way of working. And there's some that said, oh, we're going to return to office, work from home is dead. And I will just point to history and then the future. The history of the technology industry, particularly the last 30 or 40 years, every major multinational has gone through waves of work from home, no matter where they've been headquartered. So they've tried it in ebbs and flows, and there's always been trends. Sometimes people will rotate one way or the other way. So this is not a new phenomenon. I think for many industries it was. But for technology, as long as you have some type of device and some type of connection, you can be on a beach in Goa or you can be in Manhattan, and it doesn't matter as long as you get the job done. So I do think that is here to stay. I think that there are some, in each person's professional, in the way they show up to work for a company will change. So being able to not only have the device and the connectivity, but understanding how to work, at home, in a remote location, or in an office, and still get the job done. Flexibility can be a double-edged sword. People always want flexibility, and sometimes when they get it, it's too much time on their hands and there's not enough structure and they're not sure how to handle it. So flexibility will be something people will have to continue to grow into and learn and adapt. I think, this hybrid model, the way we look at it, it's here to stay. We surely can envision having, 30, 40, 50, 60% of people in offices at any given time. But I think we'll have rotational, waves of people working from home, working from office, and giving them the lifestyle balance. So I not only think that's going to be a competitive differentiator. Hopefully audio is okay.
Very interesting you said this. Very interesting you said this. Before we started the conversation, you also mentioned that you're also sort of on your shoes to get started with your travel. So must be possibly the next 80 to 90% of HCLites globally are itching to just get on the shoes and travel. Whereas your ecosystem, the environment, your customers are not ready. So how do you anticipate this change that you are ready, want to take the next Pan Am flight or a Delta flight, and here the customer says, oh, let's do virtual. Let's have breakfast in US, lunch during London, and dinner in India on the same day. So those are the possibilities you've created. How do you expect to adjust the new life skill that is going to come up to you?
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, I miss those days of being able to hop on a plane and actually, even though they offer it, not accept the internet connection so I can watch a movie and get some sleep. And not have email and social media. But the reality is, I think that we've rotated so far into work from home and lockdown that now people want that balance again. And so I think we'll have a year or two of people getting one thing I'll say, people are very down on the travel and transportation industry. If you look at stocks worldwide, they're down. Nobody's really flying. There will be an explosion towards the second half of this year and the beginning of next year, where I think people will take extravagant vacations like never before. And then, they'll take that vacation time they were afraid to take before. And so we'll see a lot of holidays, and we'll start to see corporate travel probably next year. At the same time, then there will be kind of a rebalancing and settling down to be more 50-50. That's for sure. You know, long term, let me tell you, we're so used to building technology hubs and centers. And the real question for not only tech companies, but for cities is, are cities the right way to go in the future?
Exactly.
Having condensed people.
Exactly.
You know, if you're the mayor of New York or, you know, the leader in Delhi, you're going to say to yourself, I want everybody to be in the city. But the reality is the workforce of the future, especially the Gen Z that's coming in, those that are 18, 20, 23-year-old, and that's a very big workforce. Their mentality is so different. You know, they're totally comfortable being, you know, on an Xbox in a virtual world.
I just couldn't resist asking you this. You said very
Yeah.
bulk of the workforce coming in, the Gen Z coming in, they're not adapt to whichever way you loosely define digital as a technology, social media as a way of communicating, etc., etc. And possibly perhaps people of my generation, for sure, you would have attributed 45 years of HC legacy. I was part of it for several years in my career. And I know your company, we adore your company. We came in an era when none of them were available. So the pandemic helped you learn yourself to be in the digital side enthusiastically. So how do you expect that learning and relearning to continue for your staff? It was necessity in the last 18 months. How do you ensure the necessity transforms is essential?
Well, I'll tell you what, the question is, corporations will have a role, but I think this period of time has taught everybody, right? Students to grandparents, everyone alike.
Yeah.
You know, I think people have now learned to relearn themselves as well. So we have spent a lot of time and effort this year to organize people to put the best content forward, to give people opportunities to not only reskill and learn new skills, but we've had to expand that into all kinds of, you know, it's really education now for both the EQ and the IQ is what people have to think about as a company providing it to their employee base. But now every individual themselves has learned how to go play the violin on their spare time or how to go take up a new hobby or craft. And those skills won't die because now it's all available at your device and fingertip, right?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, tell me something. The CVK, your chairman, yes, President, CEO, and the NTLA did say that potential in the IT sector in India to grow double in the next 4 to 5 years. Where do you think this growth is going to come from? Is there a way you can put your crystal ball and tell us there's a 3 or 4 areas business could do well? I know, for instance, I work very closely with your engineering and R&D services team in India. They are bullish. They're bullish across the globe. Your business process management is doing very well. Your infrastructure management system is doing well. Yeah. So you said transportation is going to explode in Q2, Q3 onwards. So are there 3, 4 areas where you think things are going to be completely not taking off guard, but is going to give you the tailwind that is completely unexpected?
I think there's so many trends. And actually, I would say that CVK was conservative in his estimates. And let me tell you why. If you look at the addressable market, you look at technology spend on a global basis, it's $3 to $4.5 trillion, depending on the sectors you look at. Every single business, every single government, every citizen has now come to rely on digital technology in a far deeper and more relevant way, just to stay alive, just to connect with family, and to conduct business, and to conduct life, and to raise children.
New logos added.
New logos, it's huge, right? So the explosion itself, and I think people were very conservative in their estimates before the pandemic, but you look at not only e-commerce probably has doubled in terms of what people were going to spend before. You know, now it's not a matter of an add-on. It is the only way for many consumer businesses to conduct business. And just to stay ahead of the competition, it's going to be double the investment of what people planned. Digitalization, the transformation is going to continue to accelerate. You know, all the basics that we talk about, from digital to cloud, to AI, to CRM to data to better analytics, those trends will increase. But there are other things that nobody anticipated. I'll take one small segment, memory chips around the world, whether in China, in India, in the US, whoever produces them, they can't produce them fast enough. Now every car needs 10 times the amount of memory chips because of the technology that's being inserted.
Exactly.
More devices sold than anybody anticipated. That business alone, the people who develop products in the next gen for memory chips, that's just one small segment of society. Look at 5G. Many countries are still going to 3G, 4G, but it's not just about phones and devices and cell towers. It's everything in between. It's all the applications. So, I've always been a believer that our industry is the key industry powering the rest of the universe. And you also hear now every industry saying we want to be a tech company. That is finally coming together. So CVK was very right in saying that the India sector itself will double. I would even start to think that it's going to triple or quadruple over this next decade. This is going to be, this is going to be the most incredible decade. You're going to pack 200 years of growth into 10 years.
Fantastic. Yeah. It reminds me in one of the documents I read about HCL Corporation that your own focus on cloud services. Cloud is a biggest game changer business place, right? Linked to that cloud, even what you may have gone through during the course of this pandemic, one element which comes very strongly is a factor of trust, right? People were always apprehensive of remote working, remote infrastructure, the concept of trust of technology. How do I trust technology can do? Trust of people, trust of cybersecurity, all of them became important. And again, when you are working remotely, etc., the issue of people, employee as a concept, how do I trust my employee is really clocking that 10 hours or not, or he's watching his Netflix, but he's doing his work as long as job is done. So how did you build, what are the new trust factors that your customers are expecting from you? How did you build your trust externally, internally? Why that is important?
This is such a deep issue. What's interesting, you have a couple different perspectives: the client, the corporation, and the employee. And so I think from an HCL perspective, we've always had that as a fundamental value of our company. For the client, getting the work done with exceptional quality and having a deep concern for them and their customers and their employees, that's always been a hallmark. As an employer, we have always had an extremely deep connection with our employees, putting them first. So that trust foundation was already there. And then employees, I think, felt a doubling down of trust, seeing that HCL cared about getting people situated at home, cared about not just the employee, but their families. And I can tell you firsthand, being part of the team, the leadership team, that there were so many employees where we helped people get their parents, their cousins, their grandparents healthy and get them to hospital when necessary during this pandemic. So that increased trust. Now, for the long term, I think there's going to be a shift in the industry that we all need to recognize. And this goes back to a little bit of work from home and giving people flexibility. This new generation that's going to start to really be pervasive in the workforce. You can think of this as the Uberization of work. And, there are many people, I know we both have some young adults in our families, right, that also have they have a same university connection at University of Southern California. But what's interesting is this generation, they're very used to using apps to select their food, using apps to communicate with their friends. They will use apps to select their work in the future. And they will look for things, work is not the most important thing like our generation. And I think we're going to see people that say, I've got great skills. I'd like to go do a project for maybe 10 weeks. And then after I earn some money, I'd like to go do something else for 4 weeks and then maybe come back and do another project later. I think we're going to see that kind of Uberization take place. And people have long predicted that. But now the pandemic, I think, has been a period of time in history where people have stopped the rat race and the spinning wheel. And young or old people are examining their own personal values, their career, and saying, is everything worth it? How should I reprioritize my life? And this younger generation, they're not as, they haven't spent the years in the cycle that we've all spent. And they're going to say to themselves, it's not worth it. I'm going to do things my way. I'm going to use apps to control my work and my life. And
That's right.
so I think this is going to be a very interesting period of time. And that trust will be important.
Do you think the pandemic has created the confidence on STEM as an area of focus within the American young community to pursue their academic interests, or they still look at STEM as difficult and not to pursue? Did this pandemic bring the change?
So I think so. I think it's different in every country. Clearly in the US, I think there's been a constant focus and a drumbeat on STEM, but still not enough people going into it. And I think, unfortunately, there are stereotypes that happen. When children are young in school, in this education system, at some point, whether they're 5 or 8 or 10 years old, somebody says, who wants to be a technologist, go in this line? Who wants to be a CEO, go in this category? And that's the wrong way to do it. I think, continuous exposure to the arts and sciences are critical to all the subjects. But I do think people are recognizing the importance and that this is where jobs will be in the future. India already has a great advantage here. It's part of the culture. It's part of the curiosity of learning how the world works. And I think India leads the world from this mentality and this curiosity and energy of, let's acquire the tools and the concepts and frameworks to figure things out and to make life better. China does this very well. Now, what's interesting is in Europe, many countries are smaller populations. And what they're doing now is saying, well, we'll never have enough people to be a STEM force compared to India, China, US. So what they're doing is they're saying, you know what, let's take part of our capital and let's create incentives and invite everybody, open borders, come live here, come get a chalet in the south of France. We'll give you a tax benefit and be a technologist and live and work and pay taxes in France, for example. And that is going to be an interesting proposition because, India, the US, China, none of us can give the lifestyle that living in the south of France or maybe the mountains of Switzerland can afford.
Are you visualizing, Arthur, since we're running short of time, but I'm so excited to know a few things from you, professional. Are you saying some point of time the future of workforce will be completely different from the past? They will possibly not be insisted to clock in 8 hours and 10 hours of work. Perhaps they do 4 hours of work, early morning, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock, finish it, go for their vacation, go for skiing, come back in the evening, 10 o'clock, take an app, cloud infrastructure, complete it. Are you going to see that kind of new definition of workforce coming in as you see it in next 5 to 10 years as culture has taught us?
I absolutely. And I think there are a number of trends, technically, politically, and otherwise, that have led to this. We've seen populism around the world where the average citizen in any country is saying, I'm going to take control of my future. I'm going to use digital technology to stay in touch with many other citizens, and together we'll have united power. That's political. But at the same time, we're seeing young people and students and people use apps to basically say, I'm not going to listen to the country or the institution. I'll form my own path. And so I think it's important for all leaders and for governments. This is where NASSCOM plays such a strong role. We have to really think through how this shift is happening.
Exactly.
Right? It's kind of going from top down to a little bit more bottoms up. So a big question is, will countries remain as powerful and strong and in control of borders the way they used to be? Think about cryptocurrencies.
Exactly.
Will a country govern the financial system, or will the people govern a Bitcoin? And that's going to be one of the big questions of the next few years. Will companies own their employees, or will they be a brand and a structure that has lots of temporary workers coming in and out?
Fantastic. My last question to you as a professional. India as a country has always promoted itself to be, pardon my language, low cost, employee available destination. In the light of what you have said, Uberization of work, the culturization of people, etc., are there the session you gave, which I take it as an ASCOM, to reposition us, saying that we are the digital destination, we can trust us?
Yeah, I'm so optimistic. First of all, like you said, 30 years I've been in the industry. My first 25 were with American, large scale technology companies. This has been the best 5 years of my career. I've been coming to India since the mid 90s. I have over 170 trips to India. And one of the running jokes is, when am I getting my citizenship? So I'm not sure I'd pass the test. It would take a lifetime to learn. But I will tell you, India has built a reputation as the tech garage of the world, and that's been quoted by several different people. I think that goes way beyond this previous brand of let's be the low cost, offshoring center. This ability to be a tech garage, an innovation hub, both within the country and with Indians around the world, is going to be one of the big brands of the next 100 years. So I think my optimism for India as, the leader and also a leading partner in so many different technology areas, and in using technology to figure the world out for the future, is going to be the critical recipe for the next 100 years.
Fantastic, Arthur. Such a fabulous way of ending the conversation. So good speaking to you. And I like many words what you utilize. And whenever you get your second jab, whenever your family allows you to travel, whenever the aircraft starts, 3 hours done. I know your first plan of destination is some location in India, and I shall make it as a habit to come and meet up with you, discuss this further. It was fantastic talking to you. Your Uberization of work that you said is what I pick it up. And there is issue. I'm sure you're also missing your water cooler moment. You're also missing your friendly chat. And what you're telling me is also that Zoom and Microsoft Team, watch out, we're under notice period already.
Yes. I look forward to sharing a meal with you somewhere in beautiful India in the very near future.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Arthur Phillip, the man who was creating the new horizon for HCL Technology to be the world's largest, most admired and valued company for the world in IT sector. Let's wish him all the best as I end this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.